Now, President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria would have been in trouble if the federal government did not shut the country's land borders. Speaking at the 5th regular meeting with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, President Buhari directed the Central Bank of Nigeria not to release funds for food importation. He said about 7 states are already producing rice, and Nigerians must eat what the country produces. The president also added, quote, "We are back to the land now. We must not lose the opportunity to make life easier for our people," end quote. President Buhari emphasized that agriculture will help restore the nation's economy as well as curtail inflation. Well, senior economist at SBM Professionals, Paul Alaje, joins me from our Abuja studio to discuss the president's directive to the central bank to stop forex for food import. Thank you for joining us on the Midday News on TVC. Now, with food inflation at double digits and farmers finding it challenging going to the farms because of the activities of bandits, would you say this is a step in the right direction at this time? That is a question on the lips of many Nigerians.
Well, I have a lot of worries with the reports credited to Mr. President that in the coming period, because seven states are now producing somewhat of agri-produce, particularly rice, that it will be sufficient for Nigeria. I doubt so very much, because the driver of headline inflation, which is currently at 14.89%, is food inflation, which of course itself is close to 20%, and I doubt if that number will reduce. With the reopening of border closure, it was expected that we are going to have some closure of gap in food supply to Nigeria, because we could now see that Nigeria may not be fully self-sufficient when it comes to food supply. But border closure gave us a lot of revelation. Recall that before COVID, food inflation had permanently remained on upward trajectory, continue to increase from time to time. That said, insurgency and insecurity among the regions that produce largest food for Nigeria, talk about Northeast, Northwest, and majorly North Central. These regions have been ravaged with a lot of somewhat new level of insurgency, kidnapping, and so on and so forth. In your bulletin today, you shared how security forces had overpowered some level of banditry and insurgents, which means we have some level of insecurity with us. So there are a lot of worries regarding what Nigerians are going to do. While I agree with Mr. President on policies regarding FX, because right now authorities talking about Central Bank of Nigeria has limited supply of forex. For those, and this cuts across, we are talking of how it affects poor people, particularly those whose disposable income is completely tied to what they will eat. It also affected the rich, because I can confirm to you that many of airlines they are having challenges bringing planes to Nigeria because of access to FX, and these are tremendous impact on local cost of local flight. You've seen some cases where a local flight has increased to about 60,000 on economy and over 100,000 on business. So the impact is cut across, but food is very important, is very basic. I think there is need for a review of this policy, particularly to affect a claim that Nigeria has reached food sufficiency.
If we are talking about looking at a review of this policy, what should it be?
Well, I think that what we should be looking at is perhaps to acknowledge the fact that we need some level of help in terms of food supply. While we have reached we might be inching towards food sufficiency in production of some food item. The truth is that there are so many other food items that we still lag behind. And I have advised, when government was coming with lockdown policy, that we have about 250,000 core members. Every year they serve. If we want structured, organized farming system, government must provide land and also provide useful tools, modern tools. We cannot rely on peasant farming. It has to be commercial-based farming, and we have manpower, about 250,000 core members who could support in this regard. Now, to make this policy where we are faced with second wave of COVID, insecurity, I think that we can do better in this regard. And I don't think this is sufficient enough. Right now, government, we need to review, perhaps to understand the reality that Nigerians are faced with in terms of food supply and food crisis, which may be imminent. Recall that there have been reports, even from some international organizations, that Nigeria may be faced with food crisis in the coming period, particularly 2021.
All right, earlier you talked about the fact that you were expecting that certain gaps will be closed when the borders were open. What are these gaps we're talking about?
Okay, so when you look at what food inflation is saying, over 18%, and the pressure is coming from a shortage in terms of food. Let me use an example, talk about rice paddy. Before border closure, rice paddy was less than 90,000. At a time, rice paddy went as high as 130,000, and Nigerians bought bags of rice in market and malls between 30 to 40,000. Then harvest season came, but we never returned to pre-border closure period of about 18,000, 19,000. Bag of rice is now around 20, 25,000, and some cases 30,000, even though we just experienced harvest season. So if we have some food items we don't have competitive cost advantage of, the clear truth is that we cannot possibly produce everything at the same time. The one we don't have competitive cost advantage on, there may be some level of taxes by government and allow those to close the gap for Nigeria because of peculiar situation we find ourselves, which includes insecurity, which includes COVID, which includes fears among farmers to go to farms. But where we have competitive cost advantage, government may curtail import of such. But for us to say that no, that we have competitive cost advantage over everything, will be for us not to be telling ourselves the truth. It is good if we want Nigeria to be self-sufficient, but supply side should be the driver. And in this case, we are talking of to drive, if you have excess supply in the market because Nigeria have maximum output, definitely price will reduce. There will always be a thermometer for measuring the impact of government policy, which is pricing. When price keeps going high, as demand remains the same because supply is reducing, then the worries will be that perhaps we are not making the right policy. Veronica, thank you.
All right, Paul Alaje, most thank you, senior economist, SPM professional. Thank you for your time on TVC Midday News.
Thank you for having me.